Hello YouTube, Chris here. Just wanted to walk you guys through some of my tools here on my workbench. I'm kind of new to this YouTube thing, but I've been a bicycle mechanic for a long time and I kind of want to discuss some of the things I do here every day. I work at Millrace Cyclery in Geneva, Illinois. I've been a bicycle mechanic professionally for about 14 years now. Been a mechanic, service manager, sales manager, general manager. I've done just about everything, but no matter what job I do, I usually end up doing a lot of service. Keep in mind here, these tools are not the prettiest, best looking tools because I use this stuff every day. We run thousands of bikes through this shop a year, and this stuff gets used and abused. This is not going to be all the pretty tools you see in some of these YouTube channels. I've got a collection of those at home that don't get used near as much, but these are rode hard and put away wet, we like to say. So let's go through real quick just some of the basic tools here in the collection and kind of explain some of the things that I use them for. And these are also not every tool I use. This collection here is kind of the quick grab and go stuff, the stuff I need on a whim right away. In front of me I have all my component specific tools, wheel tools, grinder, compressor, other things, other places. But this collection here is the stuff that I have at my fingertips all day, every day. So let's start over here. Simple set of box end wrenches. I go from 19 millimeter all the way down to 6 millimeter. Don't really have much use for anything bigger than a 19 every day. I do have them, but I don't always keep them out. And 6 millimeters usually as small as I need. I also do keep 3 various size crescent wrenches, adjustable. Never know when you're going to need those for big jobs, ugly jobs. You get something stuck and you need a lot of leverage. Those are real handy. Down here I keep a couple vice grips. I'm actually missing my bigger vice grip. I usually have a large one as well. I got a real small adjustable as well. And a couple rotor truers. Really handy tool. Nowadays more and more less expensive bikes are coming with disc brakes. So I actually use those quite a bit in truing up rotors on bikes that I'm building. Tape dispenser, stapler, that's more office supply stuff, just for my everyday paperwork things. I got a couple pedal wrenches here. I usually have a big heavy duty one, then a little lighter weight one. Usually just use this one in front, but I have 2 there just because they fit easily. Hammer, always handy, never know when you're going to need it. Good to have a hammer on there. I usually have a mallet up here too, but that's actually on someone else's bench right now. And a chain whip, always got to have a chain whip. My partner in this business here, he uses a vice whip. I'm kind of old school. I prefer the traditional chain whip. I do use the vice whip on occasion, but I kind of still like the old-fashioned chain whip for some reason, so I keep it there. Up top here, you'll see my little shark. I don't actually use that tool. I got that in a cheap bike that I built for someone they bought online. Drew some gills on him there, and he's just kind of my mascot here for the workbench. Traditional set of long handle Allen wrenches, the ball end on one end, nice and long for good leverage. Never know when you're going to need a tighter fitting Allen wrench, something that's smaller, tighter job. So I keep those. I keep a few different 3-way Allen wrenches, just real handy if you're sizing a bike for somebody, doing a quick adjustment, handlebar, seat post, whatever it is. I got 2 of the bigger ones. The bigger ones consist of a 4.56 millimeter. And then I also have a smaller one here. This is a 2, 2.5, and 3 millimeter Allen wrench. Keep my chain tool here. This is an adjustable one, so I really do just about any chain unless you're talking like Campagnolo, but I do so few of those anymore that I don't even keep that chain tool out. This is an interesting tool. You guys may have never seen one of these. I don't use this all the time. I sometimes use a tire lever, but this is a brake pad compressor. So when you got a hydraulic brake piston that's pushed out from someone pulling the brakes, you can use this to push the pads in and get the brake pads back in or unlocked. We'll go on to screwdrivers here. I keep a few screwdrivers. I do keep a lot of multitudes. 4 of these, 1, 2, 3, and then this guy down here are just regular. I think it's number 2 or number 3 Phillips. I think it's number 2. I keep a lot of them because I drop them, I lose them. I'm always looking for one for a quick brake centering or derailleur limit screw, so I keep a lot of them on hand just because I'm always looking for one. Got a large flathead. I can use that for prying stuff. I can use it for brakes that are really tough that I need a little more leverage on the centering screws. And I also keep a really small Phillips, like a number 1 here, for smaller screws and smaller things like computers and things like that. Over here we get to my T-handle Allen wrenches. I like these a lot, especially in the larger sizes. Don't use them too much in the smaller sizes. Mostly use a 4, 5, 6, 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and a 12 millimeter. I use these guys for bottom brackets, derailleurs, brake adjusts, all kinds of different stuff. But when you need a nice big Allen wrench with a lot of leverage, these work really well. Just because you get a good handle on it, good torque, and just a real handy tool. I use these probably more than any Allen wrenches on my bench. Let's go down here. I got my crank pullers. Don't necessarily have to have these out all the time. They don't take up a lot of space, so I just leave them out. I got a square taper and an ISIS spline puller. Down here, traditional cable cutters from Pedro's. Next to that is a side cutter. I use that a lot for crimping cables, even cutting cables. It does work pretty well. A lot of various uses. Building bikes, I use it to take the zip ties off. Got my needle nose pliers there. I also have a small needle nose. I find that real handy if I got cables that are broken off, stuck in shifters, things like that. If I got to fish a small cable through an internally routed frame, that's real handy. And then I got my 3-way socket wrench here. This is an 8, 9, 10 millimeter. Real handy for either cheap derailleurs that still use a hex nut instead of an Allen key, for old brakes, old cantilevers. Just a real easy wrench to hold in the hand and get good torque for that. Right down here we got our Masterlink pliers. This is actually the updated Masterlink pliers. I find these real handy. This is the 1.2 from Park Tool. I like these because you can both take the Masterlinks on and use it to span out and click the Masterlink in place. Pretty cool. You don't really have to have the thing that spans out and clicks in place because you can just use the pedals and the torque of the chain. But a pretty cool tool. Up here we got our Shimano bottom bracket compression plug tool. Real handy to have up there. Doesn't take up a lot of room. I don't keep most of my freewheel and cassette lock ring tools and bottom bracket tools up here. I do keep a couple though, just handy. The two most common, I use a Shimano cassette tool and then a Shimano freewheel tool up there because those are the most commonly used, but I have more down in my drawers. Up here I have a spanner. Always never know when you need a spanner, bottom brackets or whatever, so I keep that up here. This is a reamer. Now we're getting to the little more non-traditional bike tools, but things that you're going to find handy at some point that you're going to want. Reamer, never know when you have to cut a hole a little bit bigger or remove a little metal from something. You got a small screwdriver here, like an eyeglasses screwdriver almost, that I use on real small screws. And then some homemade tools. I always have a good use for picks and little nail set type tools. The first one you're seeing here, this is actually a hacksaw blade that I sharpened down into a poker. Real nice heavy duty steel and really thin. So I can use this for getting in areas, scraping things, poking at cables, whatever it may be. This is another one I made out of a spoke. I usually make a lot of different spoke tools, but a good little poker, sharpen one end, and a nice little handle on it. So if I need to get into a bike and poke around, I can do that with that guy. Real easy to get in there. This is just another little heavier duty poker. I can use this as a nail set. I can use it to pound on with a hammer. This is made out of a whole broken screwdriver, but never know when you're going to need those and have them handy right there to use. I got my chain checker. Obviously I check customers' chains all the time. My crank nut removal tool there. A file. I use that for steerer tubes or any sharp edges on metal that I need to remove. Caliper. I've had digital calipers. I actually prefer a non-digital one. The digital ones always run out of battery on me and when I need them most. And this is just a non-digital one. It's got the two sides like most calipers. You can do an inner diameter or outer diameter with it. Let's see. Just got some ferrules down here because they're handy, and cable ends. My grease. I always got to have a grease bin. A grease bucket. I use that Park Tool grease a lot. I cut a little slit in the lid. You can see it's pretty messy here. This is an old grease tub, but helps to scrape it off. Keep my acid brush in there, and I can scrape it off, get as much or as little as I need. A little bit of degreaser there. White Lightning Clean Streak, nice product. Evaporates. It doesn't leave a lot of residue. Works really well for cleaning drivetrains and things like that. Of course, bike wash. Got to be able to wash the bikes for customers. I've used all different bike washes. I've even used dish soap and water. It all works well. But Finish Line Super Bike Wash tends to work pretty well. Has a good smell to it, and always been happy with that product. Down here, I got some tire tools. This is actually for my my air hose. That's my filler. I got a gauge on there. We'll do Schrader or Presta. So for filling customers' tires, I put that on here. It's usually actually on the hose, which is hanging above my head. I got a blower here. You know, if you need to remove liquid from inside of a component or clean out a chain or something, you know, always handy to have a blowing end for the air hose. A couple tire levers. I always go back and forth on what tire levers I use. The Park Tool ones generally work pretty well for me, and they come in a nice 3-pack. So got to have those handy for changing flats if they're too tight. As we move up, general shop tool, I always got my razor blade. This is, you know, just a good place to have it. I use it for unpacking bikes that are brand new, cutting up boxes, whatever. I just always know it's there. Tape measure, metric tape measure. Measuring seat heights, whatever you may need. Measuring spoke. Well, I actually have a spoke ruler as well, but, you know, always got to have a metric tape measure. Extra set of Allen wrenches in there and a scissors. Got to have my scissors for bar tape. You know, cutting bar tape or unpacking bikes, whatever it may be. This top bin here is my bike cleaning bin. I'm pretty traditional. I use a lot of Tri-Flow. It's probably my favorite lube. Do pretty well with Finish Line wet bike lube as well, as long as you know how to use it and not make a mess with it. But I always keep an aerosol Tri-Flow and a drip Tri-Flow, and that wet lube. I like to have one of those on hand too. A few gear scrubbing brushes. If you've never used one of these, they're fantastic. These are pretty old and grimy, but they get a lot of use up here. And then one of my favorite tools, if you've never seen one of these, I definitely recommend looking it up. This is a, Park Tool dummy hub. So you put this in the bike when the rear wheel is off, holds the chain, allows you to clean it a lot easier. So this acts as a rear cassette when you don't have a wheel in there. Pretty cool tool. I highly recommend if you don't have one of these, run out and get one. It's pretty handy for cleaning your bike. As we move down, couple little things. Rags. I'm really weird with my rags. I think it's just from years of cleaning bikes and, you know, going through a lot of rags. I have kind of a system here. I like to call A rag, B rag, C rag. And the reason I do that, A rag obviously is almost brand new or brand new. B rag, a little bit of use, but could still do some good cleaning without making a huge mess. And your C rag is pretty grimy and disgusting. The reason I do this, let's say I'm taking a derailleur off and getting it real clean. I'll put some cleaner on it. I'll start with my D rag, get the majority of the grease off because that rag's already pretty well ruined anyway. And then once it's pretty much clean, then I'll start on my B rag. And for a derailleur, I probably won't go to the A rag. But if I'm cleaning a frame, I'll probably start with the B rag and then go to the A rag. But just a way to make your rags last longer and not have to go through as many because you're using a brand new rag to clean something really, really greasy. Keep a little parts mat here just for putting components on, stuff I want to be able to see so it doesn't get lost in the wood grain of the countertop. Got my vise over here. I always keep an axle vise in here. This is actually the vise for the whole shop. It just happened to be on my bench, which is good because I use it a lot. Axle vise is great for holding wheels, and then of course using this to cut, you know, any steer tubes or kickstands or whatever I may have to clamp in there and cut. Down below, I've got several drawers with my hacksaw and my cone wrenches and all the other component-specific tools I don't use near as often. We won't go through all those today. One drawer I do want to go in though because it's pretty well laid out is my hydraulic disc tool, or hydraulic disc brake tools. I do a lot of brake bleeds, like I was saying with the Rotor Truer. A lot of the cheaper bikes now are coming with hydraulic discs, so I do use this stuff a lot. Well, anyway, that about wraps it up for my workbench, and hope you enjoyed the video, seeing kind of what I do here every day and how I lay out my tools so I can be efficient and get everything I need to get done, my tune-ups, my assemblies, and whatever else I have to do in here. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'm very new to this. This is kind of a test video, and I definitely want to put out more videos. This is a one-take video, obviously, so it's not going to be the greatest of quality, but I plan on getting better. I plan on learning how to do some editing and cutting and pasting stuff together to make a little better quality videos. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you're interested in seeing more of what I have to offer, I'm going to have more videos in the future, so feel free to subscribe or like the video. And that's all for this time. Thanks, guys.